Bore da, and welcome to a new series, Dyma Cymru.
Coming up on today's show, tourism. Our Callum is out and about at some of the most interesting places of Wales with the facts.
A sit down with our Becca and a tall tale on the Abank.
A harrowing account of the Six Bells disaster.
And finally, our Iestyn, our music correspondent, will be chiming in with this week's up and coming talent.
All coming up on today's show, Dyma Cymru.
Today I'm wandering and I'm out and about in Caerleon. One of the UK's, or one of Wales' is quite significant small historic towns. Mainly so because it's the home of Arthur Machen, one of the 18th century's most prolific writers. Today, the house is a antiquities and interior design store. It's very nice. Not much is known about the Norman castle at Caerleon in terms of its structure and when it was built, but we do know it was sometime before 1086. It was first recorded in the Domesday Book in the years 1171 and 1175. This is Rufinus Primus and a centurion. So obviously Britannia was one of these provinces, and all of this stuff that we can see around is all things that the Romans would have left behind. Obviously. So another fun fact about Caerleon and its Roman ties is that the primary school was actually trying to dig out a swimming pool, and they found Roman armour, much like what we saw, or much like this here that we're about to show you, all just buried underneath the school, so they couldn't get the planning permission after that. So these are various military fittings. These range from belt buckles to certain badges that they may have worn for commendation in the battlefield. A lot of just shit, you know? As you can see by the mammal atop this man's helmet, this is Gaius Valerius Victor, or what is usually known as a standard bearer. I didn't come up with that. Basically, this gent would have been born of a senior officer and bred for war, basically, you know. Roman super soldier, ladies and gents. Viewer discretion is advised. There is a body in here. This is a Roman tomb. Now, as you can see, a lot of it is eroded away just from time under the ground, but they believe this would have been chiseled in such a way that it was ornate. Obviously, you can't tell that anymore. You can slightly make out markings on the side, but if you come and see inside is our gentleman. Well, I mean, that's his pelvis, but up a bit is his skull. There he is. Next up on our Roman tour is something very special, something you might enjoy, viewers. But before we go to that, let's just go to Malcolm with his story about the Six Bells disaster.
On the 28th of June 1960, in the small mining town of Abertillery, 45 men tragically lost their lives. An ignition of fire damp caused the coal dust in the air to ignite, killing all but 3 men working in the mines. Lethal concentrations of carbon monoxide gas were present. The men lost consciousness rapidly, and the death occurred within minutes. Malcolm Phippins used to work in the mines. He gave us an account of the ordeal.
They do say that they were firing around. In them days, see, do you have the building, which is bigger than this when they call the depot, you go in, and to blow the rocks off the top, they dig the line of coal out underneath, but they blow the rocks from the top, and there was an explosion, and it went on with all the gases, and all the men went to sleep. I knew the biggest part of them. Sid Moore lived next door but one to me in High Street. Dennis Lane I was in school with. Idris Mapp was my uncle from Warm Turn. They weren't blown about, they'd just gone to sleep with the gas.
In 2010, 50 years after the disaster, a 65-foot statue called the Guardian was constructed to memorialise the miners who tragically lost their lives.
And to round off this lovely trip around Caerleon, I've decided to hit the Roman amphitheatre. Now, if you can see around us, obviously we have these big mounds of grass and mud. Now, originally, those would be seats. There wouldn't be any of this grass or mud here. It was all filled in after obviously everything broke down and it was declared a heritage site. You know, they just wanted to make sure people could come and see it. This place specifically, Romans would come with their families and they would sit around and they would watch people. They would watch bands, they would watch, they had not kind of like the jesters that they had in medieval times, but similar, you know, people doing all kinds of tricks and shit. And most importantly, it was the home of gladiatorial combat.
I'm going to tell you a story. A little bit of Welsh mythology. The Afanc. In years gone by, the people who made their homes along the banks of the River Conwy suffered from terrible flooding, drowning livestock and destroying crops and homes. The people knew that the floods were not heavy rainfalls, but the result of the dreaded Afanc. People were beginning to get desperate. No spear, sword, or arrow could pierce its skin. So the three wise men came up with a plan. They would lure the beast out of the pool and over the mountains to the top of Urwyddfa. They gathered the best blacksmith to bind them, trapping the Afanc forever. The Afanc's weakness was a beautiful young maiden. And the bravest of all would sing a lullaby to lure them out of the lake. She sang and he slithered out from the water, though scared by its horribleness. She kept singing until the beast crept out and fell asleep at her feet. The men crept up with blacksmith's chains and the two ox brought to drag it out, and as they did, secured the chains around its body. But the Afanc awoke and roared with rage. It fought, but it could not break its chains. Pulled inch by inch out of the water, with two ox mighty, they had won. But as they cheered, boasted and bragged, they began to bicker over who took this glory. Fights broke out. They tore each other to shreds. And the wise men watched at these fighting men, wondering, though they defeated the Afanc, could they ever defeat the destructive pride of men? So I'll leave you with that one. Good night.
So that's all we've got time for tonight. But now we're going to have Iestyn tell us all about his song that he's chosen over the credits from the up-and-coming talent. And remember, guys, Dyma Cymru. That's Wales.
Hiya, my name's Iestyn and welcome back to this week's edition of Weekly Tunes. This episode is featuring a song named Chains by Chimera. I've grown quite fond of it as it's quite a nice, lovely thing to listen to, and I hope you guys enjoy it too.
Why do I feel so alone when you sit within my home? How do I feel so weak when I see you walking my street? I wanna get out, I need to be free, but you're still down here with me. You
Next up on Channel 4, if you're looking for something to watch while you're in the bath, The James Vodden Story, A Sex Crime Gone Wrong, based on true events and starring Kieran Green